Now it's my pleasure to introduce our next session, which focuses on using physio-functional assessments to keep workers on the job. So please welcome Nicole Gorman, the EHS Director for Cisco Canada. Over to you, Nicole.
Thank you, Brandy. So it is an absolute pleasure to be speaking with all of you today. This session, as Brandy said, is focused on how employers can utilize physiotherapy functional assessments to keep injured employees in the workplace. So first of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Nicole Gorman. I have been working in the injury prevention and health and safety field for over 12 years. I grew up in a remote village in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. I later moved to what I call the big city of Halifax to complete my Bachelor's of Science in Health Promotion at Dalhousie University. During this time, I found my calling in injury prevention. I worked with the local health authority in neurosurgery, more on the prevention side, where we focused on introducing the first ever government policy in the world on helmets for downhill skiing and snowboarding. Following this, I entered workplace health and safety field, where I managed the Canadian EHS management system for a renewable energy company, proudly going many years without a lost time injury. More recently, well, I guess 7 years is no longer recent. I embarked on my journey with Cisco. I've held various positions at Cisco with increasing responsibility, and currently I'm the Environmental Health and Safety Director for Cisco's Eastern region. So, enough about me. Let's dive into the session topic. Many of you tuning in today are on the employer side and trying to control your costs and impacts from work related injuries. We always hear that safety pays, which is 100% true. Preventing injuries is the goal we all strive for. However, when an injury does occur, there's still opportunity to have safety pay in the form of controlling your claim cost, mitigating lost productivity, and supporting your injured employee in their return to work and recovery. I currently live in Nova Scotia, which has the highest average premium rate for workers' compensation in the country, and injured workers are away from work longer than their peers in other provinces. This is one of the many reasons that the Workers' Compensation Board of Nova Scotia is introducing accountability into their legislation for both employers and employees. The goal of everyone is to have a safe and timely return to work. And when you fail to manage your injuries, you will see high claim costs, decreased productivity, and increased recovery times. I'm going to take you through some strategies that I have used and experienced in my career thus far that have supported a safe and timely return to work while decreasing overall claim costs. There are various strategies you can use to help mitigate the impacts from a work related injury. Again, prevention is the goal, but in the event you do have a workplace injury, these strategies will help lessen the impact to you and your employees. This list is by no means exhaustive. Um, they're the main ones that I have found to have a positive impact in the workplace. So, first, we have return to work policy and leadership. A company having a return to work policy that explicitly defines the company's dedication to return to work programs and outlined responsibilities of leaders and employees will set the tone and provide guidance and resources needed to have that positive impact. Next is training. This is a big one. Setting your frontline leaders up for success with understanding the costs of failure to have a proper return to work program, such as lost productivity and claim costs, will help to get their buy in to the program. Additionally, providing training to leaders on how to manage injuries post medical treatment to ensure a safe and timely return to work is critical. They play a major role in staying connected to their employees, showing empathy, and supporting modified duties. Next, we have modified duties, taking the time up front to outline and document what types of duties and tasks your company has available in the event a worker is injured and can no longer perform their full job duties is very useful. There's a great tool and resource for your frontline leaders to utilize when accommodating injured workers. It also can be in the form of an agreement with the employer and the injured employee to respect limitations and obtain frequent updates on recovery. After all, we know that injured workers staying in the workplace is healthy, but it's also cost effective. Moving on to direct access. This is a strategy of utilizing available resources and programs from your provincial workers' compensation boards to increase timeliness of treatment, obtain detailed functional assessments, and receive regular recovery updates, and have an overall holistic approach to injury management. And finally, we have collaboration. Adopting a comprehensive approach to injury management entails engaging all parties involved, including the injured worker, supervisor, healthcare professional, and the WCB case manager. It is essential to maintain ongoing communication and promptly address any concerns that arise. Today, we are going to focus on my experience with modified duties and direct access strategies. I believe these programs are currently underutilized across the country in the management of workplace injuries. Focusing on direct access, there are numerous programs across Canada that facilitate prompt assessment and treatment of various work related injuries, most commonly related to soft tissue or sprain strain injuries. These programs can vary, but what they have in common is reducing the impact to the employee and employer from the work related injury. I have three examples of such programs to show you today. Firstly is WCB Alberta and the Occupational Injury Service, also known as OIS. This program that the WCB oversees is specifically tailored for workplace injuries. It allows for prompt medical assessment and treatment of injured workers via specialized clinics across the province of Alberta. What this means is you do not have to send your employee to the ER for a non emergent injury or wait for a doctor's appointment. They can be seen quickly, and the clinic also supports return to work planning, thus reducing the likelihood of lost time claims or prolonged recovery. Next is the direct referral physiotherapy program from WorkSafe New Brunswick. This program is designed for sprain strain related injuries by providing timely access to physiotherapy assessment and subsequent treatment. Like the WCB Alberta program, this allows for quick assessment, a treatment plan, a return to work plan, and reduced barriers to care and recovery. The physiotherapist provides the employer with a detailed functional assessment to support in identifying duties the injured employee can complete to remain in the workplace. I particularly like this program and other similar programs because they provide a treatment plan and ensure active treatment is being completed. Often, injured workers end up in the emergency room for non emergent injuries. They are given pain meds or time off to rest, but no clear treatment plan is provided to support full recovery and prevention of future issues. This can lead to increased claim costs and a decrease in the likelihood the employee will ever return to their job in a full capacity. Additionally, our healthcare system is limited in its capacity across the country currently. Wait times can be significant, causing frustration both on the employee and the employer. The last example I want to share is from the Workers' Compensation Board in Nova Scotia. Very similar to the other examples, but in my opinion, with less barriers to utilize. If a worker suffers a sprain or strain at work, they can visit a WCB approved healthcare provider like a physiotherapist or chiropractor for assessment. The provider will decide if the worker can return to work immediately or if treatment is needed. They also provide what is called a Form E, or in other provinces, a functional abilities report. It is detailed functional report of the injured worker. This supports return to work planning. And additionally, many of these clinics have occupational therapists on staff and can support in complex cases. Now, I want to touch on my recommendations on how to optimize the use and effectiveness of these programs from the employer perspective. This is based on my real world experience over the last decade. First is a physical demands analysis, or commonly referred to as a job demands analysis. These are extremely useful in determining what are the physical job demands of a position. This provides a quantitative review of how a human body interacts with the work they are doing. It will tell you on average how much time an employee spends the shift lifting, pulling, pushing, and what weights the employee is exposed to on a frequent and an occasional basis. This analysis sets the standard for what the treatment of an injured worker should achieve to return them to full duties. It also provides clear guidance to treating healthcare provider of what the employee jobs entails. This takes a bit of guesswork out of the treatment and recovery process and allowing for a more timely return to work. In my experience, I've seen workers come back to their full duties quicker and in better condition because they receive targeted treatment to their position to avoid regressions in recovery or additional injuries. Next is standardized modified work offers. I've already touched on this in previous slides, but I wanted to add that many workers' compensation boards have resources to support those modified work offers and planning. For example, Working to Well is a great resource in Atlantic Canada. It provides you fact sheets you can provide to your employees to help explain the process to them, and many resources for leaders to support them in achieving their return to work objectives. Next is clinic relationships. And when I say clinic, I am often referring to physiotherapy clinics. I recommend collaborating with a WCB approved clinic or physiotherapist to foster a relationship. Invite them into the workplace to observe tasks and discuss common injuries that you're experiencing. Use them in partners as partners for your return to work program for efficient functional assessments of your injured workers, thus facilitating modified duties. You can even set up a system for your frontline leaders to utilize whereby they submit requests to the clinic to have injured employees assessed. This is very helpful for businesses that run 24 hours a day. For example, in my experience, I have utilized LifeMark's physiotherapy direct access program. They facilitate in finding the nearest clinic to your employee's residence and supporting the booking of an appointment within 24 to 48 hours. I'll further review my experience with that process in subsequent slides. And finally, return to work training. Integrate your return to work program into your leadership training. Ensure you have guidance and support created for frontline supervisors on how to provide modified duties, oversee injured workers, and support in maintaining their connection to the workplace. The intervention of frontline supervisors and managers is crucial to a successful return to work program. Now I'm going to take you through an example of how I've used these strategies and programs. This is only one example and is not a one size fits all. The key is writing out your own process that works for your business. Getting it on paper will help guide all parties in the right direction and avoid confusion. So, first, a workplace injury occurs, and I'm going to use the example of a soft tissue injury, such as a lifting ergonomic related injury. Medical attention is needed or requested. So the employee indicates they plan to seek medical, or they're requesting specifically to be assessed by a physiotherapist, or their pain is not going away with regular first aid. What we have is a supervisor completes an online form with key information that is auto emailed to a clinic intake coordinator and also the contact at the employer for return to work. The clinic then takes that referral, triages it, finds the nearest available clinic to the employee, and then notifies the clinic of the referral. The employee is then scheduled for a physio assessment, and they are called by the clinic to confirm the date and time of that appointment. Following the employee being assessed at the clinic emails a functional assessment results directly to the employer. They're also sent to the workers' compensation board at the same time. Modified duties are offered utilizing functional assessment and recommendations from the clinic. They offer duties or tasks that are within the injured employee's restrictions. And then monitoring and communicating, ensuring the employee is working within their established restrictions, communicating with them often, and getting regular updates from the clinic on their functional progress. Best practice is usually every 2 weeks. And that's because they can regress in their recovery. And we want to make sure that we're adjusting the duties according to either regression or progress. And I want to share another example with you in the form of a case study that shows the benefits of early intervention with physio assessment of function and return to work planning. So, an employee reported to their employer that they had rolled their ankle while walking across a parking lot at work. They indicated that they had pain when applying pressure. There was no indication the ankle was broken, and it appeared to be a strained sprain related injury. The employer immediately offered the employee modified duties and submitted a direct access request to physiotherapy for an assessment. The employee was placed on sedentary office related duties in the meantime, and first aid was administered, including elevation, rest, and ice. The employee received a physiotherapy appointment within 24 hours of the injury. They were assessed and a treatment plan was drafted. A functional report was provided to the employer to enable them in providing safe and productive modified duties. The employee was able to resume light duties with frequent micro breaks. And within 7 days of the injury, the employee was cleared for full duties and was eased into their regular position. No lost time or significant medical costs were incurred, and the employee remained at full wages and on the job. This is just one example of the positive outcome from early assessment and return to work planning. In some cases, if this had not been coordinated with the strategies I mentioned earlier, it could have slowed treatment and recovery, and not to mention incurring lost time related costs. I want to leave you today with some additional resources that can support you in your return to work program journey. Some of these resources are from workers' compensation boards, and some are tools and information from other organizations. These are embedded links, so you'll have access to them after today's summit. And please note that I'm not affiliated with any of these organizations. They are just resources that I have used in my career that I have found helpful. So we have WorkSafe BC, a document that is pretty comprehensive on how to recover from an injury while you're at work. From WCB Manitoba, return to work package as well with key strategies and resources that you can utilize. WSIB Ontario has a great document on how to approach accommodation in the workplace from work-related injuries. And then this is supposed to say IWH, an online job demands analysis tool. So if you don't have access readily to an ergonomist or another kinesiologist or physiotherapist to conduct these types of assessments, you can at least get started online by answering key questions about different job positions and utilize this tool. CCOHS, so the Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and Safety, has great fact sheets on functional abilities evaluations and return to work in general. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Working to Well in Atlantic Canada, there's various provincial resources within that website that can help guide you as well. Thank you, everyone, for attending my session today. I'm grateful to be able to share some insight into this topic with you all, and I encourage you to use the Q&A function as we switch gears. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. As Nicole mentioned, if you do have questions for her, please enter them in the Q&A box, which has been very busy during this presentation. I'm going to get to as many questions as I can. So one participant wants to know, how have you dealt with workers who have gone for outside medical assessments that were not approved?
Um, so I'm not sure what I mean by not approve, but for outside assessments, so let's say your employee goes to their own family doctor or goes to another physiotherapist. The way I've handled it is I standardize getting the assessments done at the clinic in addition to them being able to go wherever they want for treatment. But I do want them to go every 2 weeks to get assessed by the same physiotherapist so that there's consistency. And workers' compensation boards are usually okay with that. They let you know that treatment can be done anywhere. So we're not going to dictate your treatment. We just want regular updates from someone that's doing an assessment based on our job demands analysis.
Okay. Another participant notes that some of these programs providers seem to be closely tied to the employer. What are your thoughts on the objectivity of these practitioners given the workers' compensation implications of a speedy return to work?
That's why I always say make sure it's a WCB approved clinic. They are trained and given certain certifications, and every province is different. But for example, in New Brunswick, they approve physiotherapists, and you have to actually sign up to the program. There's not a fee to sign up, but that's another way that it helps control certain employers from encroaching in a fine line there, right? They have standards to uphold as well. They're healthcare professionals that are tied to colleges, that they need to make sure that they're not being biased in their approach.
Okay. Do you have any advice or tips and tricks to minimize recordable injuries, minimizing TRIF in terms of injury management?
I do. I've actually worked with physio clinics and brought them into the workplace to help with pre-shift stretching programs. So we often share those stretching with our employees, but when they see a healthcare professional showing them the best ways to prepare their body for increased workload, they tend to take it a little bit more seriously. We also talk about our own healthcare benefits. So a lot of employers offer um, reduced cost for physiotherapy treatments, for massage therapy, and keeping your body in tip-top shape for a high demand work job is a great way to prevent injuries.
Okay. Someone would like to know if the direct referral request goes to WCB for actioning.
So that was just an example I've used in the past of how I set it up for my supervisors. The direct, that was just for them to be able to submit it to the clinic for booking so that they didn't have to call a bunch of different clinics and try to get an employee in. So that was more timely. The clinic is the one who reports the incident or the healthcare to WCB. You still have an onus as an employer to report normally to the WCB through Form 6, I think it is in Newfoundland, or Form 7. It's a different form in every province, but you still have that obligation.
Okay. Do you have any recommendations for dealing with employees who are not cooperating with the return to work process?
So that can come in various forms. That can become where someone is not working as much in the demand side that they could be, or they're working too much over their restrictions. In either case, getting on the phone and talking to the WCB case manager and arranging what we call a case conference or a return to work planning meeting, where you involve all parties that are involved in their care, so the healthcare professional, the employee, yourself, and WCB, and really laying out what are the issues that either party is having, and let's come to some sort of conclusion consensus based on both objective medical evidence and also what we can do best to support the employee to recover.
All right. Do you have any recommendations for how to manage employees between the date of injury and the time they see medical help?
So, depending on the type of injury, if it's a soft tissue or a sprain strain, we try to keep employees whole, so keeping them in the workplace, um, really reducing their job demands almost down to sedentary office related work, again, depending on the injury, so that they're not in an area where they could cause further injury. And putting that offer out to them initially saying, hey, here's our offer of sedentary duties. Once we get you into get assessment, then we can adjust and change things up according to the medical directive.
Let's see. There's so many questions in so little time. Does the process you outlined today still apply to mental health claims, or is there anything you do differently for these?
So that's pretty new in my space, anyways. Nova Scotia just recently approved that, but I have experience from other provinces. Approach would be a bit different. It depends on what the source of the mental health harm is. So if it's harassment, violence, making sure that you're isolating out that employee from that exposure to the source. And also working with your human resources team to ensure that there's a comprehensive investigation done. um, Again, I'm not super well versed in psychological injuries, but I know Bill, who's on our panel later on, will be able to provide some comments.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Nicole. We appreciate your
No problem.
time today.